Thank you very much for joining us tonight. This is our Board of Trustees public session agenda. The date is September 9th, 2021, and the time is 6:03 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So before we begin with the public comment portion, I would just like to begin with a moment of silence. This Saturday will be September 11th and the 20th anniversary of the attack on the World Trade Center and the attack on the United States. And we'd just like to begin with a brief moment of silence. So thank you very much. So we'll begin our meeting with public comment. I believe there is a sign-up sheet. Charlene, we can begin with who's ever first on the list.
Mr. Gregory Delia.
Hello, I'm Gregory Delia. This is summer resident, part-time resident. I'm here to ask a question regarding your issue number 14, where you are turning around or would like to turn around and clarify the special exemption use regarding this board versus the zoning board. I'd like a little clarification on that. Is that going forward for all issues?
Sure. Go ahead.
So currently right now, special exception uses are issued by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that's delegated by this board. The Board of Trustees has delegated that to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The board now is currently giving the option back to this board on two uses, museum uses and pantry food uses.
So specifically for 51 Pond Lane and for Meeting House Lane. That's basically what this is regarding.
Well, the local law is not written to address particular
But
properties.
specifically, those are the two issues that are presented to the zoning board that have been a problem at this point. And that, so basically, we're going to we're going to rework the law to suit what we want to do here. Is that it?
Well, it's a rework of the law to give the Board of Trustees the ability to take jurisdiction over
On those two issues, just those two issues.
special exception uses for museums and food pantries. It's not specific to a piece of property.
But we all know what's up right now before that's been at zoning and been stalled at zoning, which was 51 Pond Lane, which was the Pyrrhus Concert project, which the zoning board already issued in 2016 a resolution for them to go ahead and put the homestead up. And in that resolution, it requires that they turn around and build the homestead before they come to any board to do anything or ask for anything else. And that homestead also states that that resolution also states that the homestead is the principal piece of structure on the property. I just find it interesting that you put this on here. It's your number 14, and basically you're very vague in what you're saying, and it's for food pantries. Well, we all know that the heart of the Hamptons is an issue right now, and it's for museums, and the 51 Pond Lane is a museum, and I just find that kind of odd that you would reach out to try and do that when you're all elected and the purpose of a zoning board is to allow those people who are appointed to those positions to handle those issues, which is removed from elected officials. So I'm just curious, now I ask the mayor, why those two issues?
A few things, Greg. Thanks for the question. Now, typically in this public comment portion, generally it's for the public to speak to the board, but in this particular case, I would actually like to address that because it's good to obviously let the public know. So this is now our second term here, and we've done a lot of research as to kind of what the authority of the Board of Trustees is versus the authority of other boards. And some villages, some towns The Board of Trustees is the zoning board of appeals. Other villages designate certain authorities to the zoning board of appeals. That's the beauty of having the Board of Trustees. We can choose to be as proactive or not proactive as we'd like to be. This board, over the last year or two, have also made some changes to our code in order to make things better for the village. We recently modified Chapter 65-10, and now we have the ability to improve our historic district. So this board obviously has the ability, as we said, to grant authority to other boards, to designate responsibilities to committees, and therefore we are working within the confines of the law in order to do what we think is best for the village. Now, I also would add that this is simply a resolution to have a public hearing to amend the law. And at that point, you may go in front of the public hearing, and you may also
State the case at that point.
and you can let us know your opinion so that we can listen to
It's
you.
just, I understand, it just seems rather odd that the only two issues you want to look at are food pantries, which are up right now, an issue with Heart of the Hamptons, and the museum, which there's been an issue with dealing with the Pirates concert, that you're changing this. It just doesn't look very good from the public's perspective. I guess that's what I want to bring make a point of saying here. It doesn't. We have two issues that have been a problem at other boards, and you guys have suddenly decided to put this, you've got this here to decide I believe it's on the 21st, although I don't know, have you publicly notified this properly with the 10 days, or does this not warrant the 10-day notification?
This is a 10-day
What
notification.
is the 10-day? In the paper?
It doesn't go into the paper until the board approves the vote.
Before it approves it, so then it really can't be heard on the 21st, because the next paper that's due out is next Thursday.
So we do have two papers of record, the Newsday and
Oh, so now, is that official, that Newsday is now
Newsday's been the secondary.
secondary?
Consistent.
And we don't consider that that's, okay.
So your note, by the way, which you might
It
find
will
of
also be in
interest,
the Southampton Press.
is
Which will not be in time, though, for a 10-day notice, but that's, yeah. And that's the one that the people in this village read.
the other thing I would add is as far as special exemptions go, the town board actually does have kept its authority to issue some special exemptions.
I understand.
So it would be more in line with what the town and other municipalities have. So again, this is,
Again, it's just that these two issues have been presented to other boards, and you've had an issue with it at the other boards, so it just doesn't seem quite right. That's all.
Thank you, Greg, for your comments.
Jeff Cole?
May I take this off to speak, or is that not acceptable? Is that okay? Thank you. I'm Jeff Hull. I'm here to speak about the cannabis law that you're looking at.
Jeff, we do have a public hearing for the cannabis legislation.
Okay.
So it would be more appropriate to speak at that public hearing versus in the public comment.
Okay.
If you do decide to speak, I can put you on the agenda to speak. I'll call you up when we open the public hearing, and then your comments will be noted into the record for the public hearing. Is that okay?
Oh, so these comments wouldn't be in the public hearing?
They wouldn't be in the public hearing. This is part of the whole minutes of the meeting, but if you really want to be on the record for the public hearing, then you should speak when we open the public hearing.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps clarify.
That's fine.
at the
I
record.
just saw public comment. I want to make comments.
Right.
So I
Okay, thank
appreciate
you.
that.
And I appreciate your public comment,
very
so thank
much.
you.
Jim McFarland?
Here for the stop sign issue. I could speak now and you could remember what I'm telling you about it, or I can come back.
Better to come back for the stop signs. Thank you, Jim.
Porter Bibb, Mr. Bibb, would you like to wait? Are you going to make a public comment and then have your presentation, or would you like to wait till the presentation portion of the meeting? You wait for it, okay. Christine Sullivan?
It's Christine Sullivan Whitker, and a couple things. This number 14, the special exception use, it doesn't really matter what essentially the details are, but Oh, sorry. I'm not taking my mask off. I wanted to say that the number 14 special exception, I think the public hearing should be held, and now I'm hearing it can't be, but it should not be held in a Zoom session. It should be held there should be a proper public hearing on that. Because it seems to me that it's, whether it's one or two specific uses, it takes some power away from the ZBA, and I don't like to see that. And secondly, this having picked the 21st of September, and we know the governor just September 6th made this rule about tightening up, in-person meetings or whatever. It would seem that it should be in a public forum outside or somewhere that more people could attend. And the other thing is, I question about the master plan committee. What is the format in which to submit comments to them about thoughts? The subcommittee you've appointed to be an advisory, whatever.
Is there, Christine, is there anything else you'd like to say, or is that a question?
No, I had a question. I said, how does the public send an email or comments to them?
There will be various public hearings that we'll be having on the master plan, as well as an interview process with some residents to get as much information and feedback as possible. So,
Okay, so there's no way that somebody can speak to, I guess you just speak to one of them. Is that it?
you are welcome to do anything you would like. If you'd like to speak at a public hearing, you can do so, or if you'd like to email us any thoughts, we could also pass those along to the steering committee, as well as to the planner.
Or I could speak to one of the members of the committee I know. Okay. And the last thing is I'd love to know the derivation for the necessity for the Meeting House Lane stop signs at Pine Street. As it is, there's hardly any traffic on Pine Street. And living on Cameron Street, all of us are landlocked. So it would seem to put on Meeting House Lane where the flow of traffic basically moves. It's only the red light that makes people, nobody's speeding on there, you can't. So I'm just saying it seems unnecessary to put stop signs at the corner of Pine and Meeting House Lane.
Thank you. We're going just to let everyone know, just so there's, there'll be public hearing on that, but we're planning on just closing that and moving on. Just if anyone else would like to make public comment, there'll be no action taken, just in advance, people can know that.
Somebody else? Good evening.
I'm concerned about what looks like a perceived power grab by this Village Board of Trustees over our land use boards, delegated or not. The Village Board of Trustees seeks to change an entire zoning category just to accommodate the lease it recently signed with Heart of the Hamptons. We love Heart of the Hamptons, but one has to really question the wisdom of this village board for signing a lease for a use that's not presently permitted in the village. Land use decisions cannot be shoehorned just to bring about one desired result in one particular zoning category. This sets a very bad precedent, and it continually erodes the residential nature of our entire district, a residential district, including our historic district. The approach that this board is also eroding the role of our land use boards and process, and I think transparency. If a resident today needed a variance, they would have to go fill out a big application, go to the building department, sign up for a meeting, all the residents nearby would be contacted. Not just something like this in a paper that no one can see. This looks like Where's Waldo. In addition, very educated boards would evaluate if there would be studies required, and they would undertake them with professionals. You don't have to say anything, you don't have to commit to a study, and all you have to do is notice this in the paper. I also remember you saying that you were concerned about this because it contradicted the master plan on our August 12th meeting, and that we were going to have a discussion today. But lo and behold, I look at the agenda, and it's deferred to September 21st when so many people struggle with Zoom. So how is that being transparent? You know what transparency is? It's clarity, it's access to information, and it's understanding your decision-making, none of which you're providing to the public. This is not an issue about food pantries. It's an issue about process and policy. And it's the right of every homeowner to ensure the village decisions, no matter how well-intended, are made in a thoughtful, thorough, and transparent manner. You have not shown us why this type of operation cannot be located someplace else. You've not offered up a single study. You've not offered to address the quality of life impacts such as noise, traffic, and how this change would affect not only this residential district, but every residential district. The taxpayers and residents are concerned about traffic and noise. They need transparency. And speaking of transparency, I don't think it's very transparent to shift a meeting that you promised to have on this day because all these people showed up to discuss it. And now they have to go home and figure out how to use Zoom. Thank you.
Dr. Joseph, please.
Good evening. I'm a member of the PCAC, the Peers Council Action Committee, and I'm here tonight. Unfortunately, I too am learning about the postponement of this hearing, which I'm specifically here for, and might I add, in favor. For one, I have to beg to differ that the zoning board is all-knowing and knowledgeable. I feel that there is an imbalance in the board and that this balance should be achieved with the appropriate people sitting on it. So I'm not in agreement with the last speaker, for one. For number two, I wish that there was balance and that the right people were sitting on the board to make the right decision. However, I am in favor of taking away this power which was not rightfully used in the first place. I'm here in favor of the Peers Council action and taking away this power because in the spirit that we didn't land on Plymouth Rock, it landed on us. And that this village has to realize that Peers Council and enslaved labor and the wealth that many of you enjoyed had to do with enslavement of Peers Council and the people that were here before many of you. And the fact that we have to continue to fight to have his legacy preserved is a disgrace. And all of the noise and the parking that we have to continue to fight for is an outrage. I was there all summer with all of the concerts, the music, and the noise that continue to go on. It should not happen. In the spirit of the ARB, who originally denied the certificate of appropriateness to knock down his house in the first place, which was overruled by 3 administrations before that, which was not the ZBA, which was not the ARB, the house was torn down. We are still here, 3 administrations, okay? And the house is not built. And to the dismay of many of the people who are here in opposition of this board to override, municipalities and the boards have the right to not adhere to its own zoning codes if it does not directly harm its community. And that is a New York State Attorney General's rendering, that they do not have to abide to their code as long as it does not hurt its people and it adds to the community and its people. So you are dismayed to think that this village board has to go through the same process as its residents. That is not true. So with that being said, I implore this board to continue to go in the direction that you are going in when you have an abusive ZBA that makes decisions not based on the criteria of the code that you have adopted, that adheres to administer rules that are not fair and that are not just, especially when you as a village, and maybe not your administration, have wronged the community, its public trust and its public dollars to tear down a home that was in a historic district That should have never been torn down, and we are still here today trying to rebuild his house and to celebrate all of the residents that have contributed to this community before you and many of the people that were here. It's time that we celebrate everybody and do the right thing. It's not fair to tell us about noise. It's not fair to tell us about parking. I have videos, I can pull out my phone. The ZBA is abusive, and it only applies rules to certain people. So to me, it looks racist. To others, it looks racist. And to stand here and tell us, experienced people, about zoning laws that they know of, and there's no balance on the ZBA, of an architect, of an archaeologist, who is certified on that board that knows about zoning? Who is certified in municipal zoning? I am. And I have somebody asking me about a museum charter that wants to look behind somebody's museum charter. It's outrageous. I have museum professionals in the state asking me about that. So is the ZBA qualified? No.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper.
Jeff Hall would like to come back up?
I'm sorry, when I looked at the agenda on the website, I didn't realize, and I have an appointment this evening, so I would like to speak on that subject. In December 1933, permit number 113 was issued for what was, at that time, a banned substance, a banned product. That substance was alcohol. That permit went to my ancestors. That store is still in Southampton. It's right in the heart of your village on Job's Lane. My family's name is still on that store. It's still owned by my grandfather's partner, or his son, John Rist. It's a huge asset to this village, whether you like alcohol or whether you don't. It brings in people. They do a tremendous amount of business. Thankfully, in 1933, the village board didn't act to ban alcohol in Southampton because they didn't want kids to get it, or they didn't want the addictive portions of it. There are negatives with these cannabis, alcohol, but if you think by banning stores in this town, in this village, that they're not going to drive across 27 to the store that opens up there, or a little bit west or a little bit east, you have all run on an economic, making the village economically viable and thriving. And you are literally shooting yourselves in the foot. I urge you to please look at similar municipalities to ours. If you take Aspen, Colorado, in 2017, Aspen, Colorado sold more cannabis than it did liquor in their liquor stores. 2019, they did 11.9 million in sales of cannabis. Take a look, Google Earth their streets, their stores. It's thriving. I don't smoke cannabis, I don't use cannabis, that's my own choice. However, I have gone into a store out of curiosity, like years ago. What is it like in there? Is it gonna be like a bong head shop, like when I was a child? No, it was like going to Tiffany's, honestly. All these little containers in glass with glass shells, describing what each one is, what each product does. what it smells like, tastes like. I really, really think that you need to step back. There's taxes involved, as far as I've been told or read, that we'd be losing, that there's on the tax on the cannabis that you would be receiving. And if you think you're going to solve the problem of abuse, addiction, by not having it in this village, you're wrong. They're just going to drive across 27. So I really hope you postpone the vote, or at least think about what I have to say, because it's not going away. And just like previous administrations didn't want people on the streets dining, that's not any of you. But for years, I talked to previous administrations. Let's put some oh no, we don't want that here. This is Southampton. Don't you know what Southampton is? Well, I do know what Southampton is. I was born here. I work here. My family's here. And my family's been here for 5 generations. Please, take a step back. You have till the end of the year, at least from what I've read. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just allow sales of the product. I'm not the other part of the law that I read about consumption areas. Okay. I'm not for that, but the retail I am. Thank you very much for hearing me. Appreciate it. Yep.
That's what we have.
Is there any, thank you, Charlene. Is there any additional public comment this evening? Okay. Seeing that there's no additional public comment, we'd like to move forward with the next portion of our agenda, and that is the employee of the month. And the first employee of the month is Danielle Burns. Danielle is the Village Hall, and she's our village tax receiver. And we've gotten to know Danielle, and she has shown us that how much she loves the village, and she has done a particularly good job, especially of late. But I will actually turn this over to Charlene just to speak a minute or two on Danielle and why she is the employee of the month.
Thank you, Mayor. Danielle Burns has been our tax collector. She's been an employee of the village for many, many years, and I believe over 20 years. And she has been running our tax department, sending out bills, collecting taxes. She came to me shortly after I was appointed and said that she had been wanting to implement online tax payments. She had all the paperwork in place. She led the charge and spearheaded the implementation. And for the first time in village history, this tax season, our residents were able to pay their tax bills online. Danielle's also spent some time, her time with the village was spent in the mayor's office as an assistant and in the clerk's office, and she's always willing to lend a hand and step in. We've had some staffing shortages through the year, and she's been able to always pitch in and come in on scheduled days off to help us. So I recommended that she be recognized in this way.
Thank you, Charlene. And also, thanks to your help and Danielle's help, we are now accepting tax payments online for the first time. So it's a substantial achievement that we have. So because we have so many great employees, we actually have a second employee of the month, and that is Corey Sweezie. He's in the highway department, and he's a heavy equipment operator. And it goes without saying that this is a very tough skill to be a heavy equipment operator, and we just wanted to thank him for his hard work. Thanks to our heavy equipment operators, we have clean beaches and clean streets, and thanks to Corey and other members of the highway department and our heavy equipment operators, we have a beautiful village, and they often do the job that many of us are either not able to do or don't want to do, and these are often thankless jobs, so it's our duty, obviously, to give thanks to Corey as well as other members of the highway department as well.
And I'd like to add, I actually asked how Corey was nominated today, and it came from his fellow workers, his co-workers. And I just wanted to mention that because I think it's even more special when it comes from other people that you work with. So this is co-workers that actually brought the nomination to our administrator.
Thank you. And the deputy mayor is the liaison to the highway department and the public works department, so she has the opportunity to kind of get the information and liaise with these departments on a regular basis and has a good pulse on what's going on. So thank you for the addition. The next part of our meeting is the board presentations. And the first board presentation is a presentation that we're looking forward to hearing. It is by Porter Bibb regarding the windmill project. So Porter, feel free to come on up. I know I think you have about 5 minutes or so, but we're looking forward to hearing this. And we've worked closely on this project, and it's something that, if successful, would add something great to the village. So I believe we have CMAC Sammy as well, who's assisting, but Porter, CMAC, feel free to come on up and present. So thank you for attending tonight, Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and trustees. And I'm an 84-year-old resident of the East End and a 55-year resident of Southampton Village. And this is the first time I've ever done anything in the area of civics. I did, though, in 2009 as chairman of the WPPB radio station, the only licensed NPR station on Long Island. I led the initiative to acquire that station from Long Island University. And that's relevant because what I'm going to talk about tonight also requires government and university cooperation. I'm going to very quickly address how, why, when, and what needs to be done about something that we call the windmill project. Next. These are some facts. I'm not going to recite them, but I have a packet for the village officers and the trustees that gives you a much more elaborate history of this windmill, which is the oldest windmill in the United States. And it was moved in 1890, as we point out, from its original home on Windmill Lane to the Shinnecock Hills, where it sits today, in very sad disarray and terrible condition. It was Stony Brook, as most of you know, bought that property in 2007 from Long Island University, and technically the windmill sits on their property, but they don't own it. We own it. The people of New York actually signed the bill of sale and got the deed to the property, and the person who has to give us permission to take a piece of state property off of state property is the governor. And we've talked to the previous governor. We haven't yet had a chance with Governor Hochul to talk about this project. She's got her hands full, as you can imagine, but she's very sympathetic to historical and preservation matters. This last line, excuse me before you go, the last line is the key. The windmill is locked, unused, and generally inaccessible. Its blades have been for over 2 years stored in a warehouse. Nobody at Stony Brook can even tell you which warehouse or where it is. And it's going to last another maybe 15 or 20 years before it collapses and is inaccessible and unrepairable if something isn't done about it very quickly. Next. Well, I've just covered most of that, but we've gone all the way up to the Department of Interior and the National Park Service, who've looked at the windmill. They know the history, and they want to designate that windmill, if it's back on Windmill Lane, as a National Historic Landmark. It cannot be given that kind of credit where it is right now because it's not in its original site. Next. Next, there you go. This is very interesting. In 2009, the Windmill Park was part of the original master plan of that year. Never got acted on, but in 2013, the village planning commissioner, who's sitting right here in our midst, presented a village business district master plan to the village trustees, which designated the CPF-owned property on Windmill Lane directly across the street from the Rogers Memorial Library as the site for relocating Southampton's historic windmill. In late 2013, the village trustees actually voted to adopt the master plan, which included a rendering of the windmill, a master plan of the whole village showing Windmill in its relocated place on Windmill Lane. Next. These are the next steps if anything is going to happen to make the windmill project work and to bring the windmill back to Windmill Lane. It needs to be vote of trustees, and the village has to set up a committee and has a whole array of background checks and other investigations, which I and a committee of about a dozen very interested citizens, with the blessing of the mayor, over the last 12, 13 months, we have done a ton of research, and we've found how to move the windmill, how much it's going to cost, how to relocate it, looked at environmental, at a wide array of other necessary permits and restrictions, and we believe it can really work very quickly. In fact, if the trustees and the village decides to go forward with this project, we think it could be in place in first quarter of 2022. That's the story. Bring our windmill back.
Good evening, board members, trustees. If I would just add a couple of notes to Porter's presentation. Just to put things in context, we basically are seeking the board to adopt this project as the governmental entity in representing us in front of the governor for requesting this permission. We have already undertaken this task, actually. Our process, as Porter mentioned, started quite a while back when we did the Village Business Master Plan. And that was all about increasing walkability and pedestrian infrastructure in this village. A component of that was the Arts District, which we all are proud today to see this basically come to life on Job's Lane by the Southampton Arts Center, the Marino Foundation, and various other cultural institutions. The other aspect of it was basically bridging the other quadrant of the village, which is basically Nugent Street and Windmill Lane, which is where actually the Rogers Library has moved to, and increase walkability and pedestrian infrastructure to that end of the village. And basically that would be an impetus towards further improvement and development of sites that are prone for development in that area on Nugent Street and Windmill Lane. We have instituted, adopted, and reformed our zoning to address issues of development in all those areas. And that's basically the foundation of why we're going towards the sewer district creation and bringing sewer to this village. It was basically definition or defining our growth if that sewer were to come to this village. And this windmill would basically function as an anchor on that side of the village. We are the only village on the east end that does not have a windmill. Sag Harbor, East Hampton, Watermill, Bridgehampton, they all have their windmills. I think we'll all be proud to bring this windmill, which originally did sit on this area, back to this village. And this is at no cost to the village. This is all private funds being gathered. We just need the village as a governmental entity to represent us in this process with the state of New York. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could just add, and fellow trustees, I've met with Porter and Siamak several times on this issue. I think it would be outstanding for the village to have a windmill on Windmill Lane, a windmill that comes from Southampton. So I've offered to them, if the board is in agreement, to act as their person to help them bring their case in front of the appropriate state agencies, and would like to pursue this. I think the key issues are what Syamak said, that this will be entirely privately funded, will not cost the village any money. And if we can find the structure to set that up and to create it in a situation where it doesn't require any additional funding through time, I can't imagine that there'd be any reason not to do this. So that's something that the board can discuss and figure out, but as I said, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions from the board? Well, we wanted to thank you, Porter and CMAC, for your presentation. It was excellent. As you know, this board is happy and eager to assist in any way. So, please be in touch and let us know additional next steps. And in the absolute, worst case scenario, if we are unable to get the window over here, we also would be interested in having a conversation about a replica. I know it's not the ideal choice, but if that is the only choice, then that's also a choice that we'd be willing to entertain as well, and happy to assist. But we appreciate your time in coming out tonight. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and effort in this project. Now, our next board presentation tonight is the Budget and Finance Committee presentation. We have two members tonight, Len Donahue is our chair, as well as Ed Moneypenny, who are here tonight. So we're looking forward to hearing tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees. Good evening, and thanks for the invitation to be here. I'm joined here by all the members of the Budget and Finance Committee: Dane Neller, Ed Moneypenny, Rosemary Dios, and James McNaughton. I would like to make some introductory remarks before the presentation begins. This is about the village's financial audit, which provides an independent opinion on the village's financial statements and the results of its operations and cash flows. The audit determines, by selectively testing financial records, whether the financial statements present a reliable and an accurate picture of the village's finances, and is performed by certified public accountants firms, certified public accounting firms, and also results in an auditor's opinion, which is included in the audit report. Importantly, it provides fiscal transparency for the village's functions. The external users of this information include sellers of goods and services and work to the village, as well as bond rating agencies, among others. The implications of the audit report, therefore, can be palpable to the taxpayers of the village in terms of village financial obligations and the village's long-term financial outlook. With that context, I'd like to introduce Ed Moneypenny of the committee, who has put many hours of work in preparing this presentation with the strong support of Charlene Cagle-Betts and her staff, the village auditors, the village actuaries, and the entire Budget and Finance Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, folks. I'm going to try and do this with my mask on. The only issue I think I'm going to have, it tends to fog up my glasses, so if I kind of go like this, you'll have an understanding of what it is. Just taking off from what Len said, we got to go back, Charlene, got the wrong slide on there.
Okay, this is the wrong slide.
Yeah.
Which one would you like? You want the Excel spreadsheet or the other Word document?
The one that's got the summarized balance sheet on it.
Then that would be the...
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, good.
Okay. So based on several discussions that we had amongst ourselves, meeting with the auditors, et cetera, we've got some observations about some things we want to talk about in these financials, and then we've got some recommendations that come from the observations. What you have on the screen is a highly summarized statement of net position. To me, I'd know it as a balance sheet. That's a term I'm more familiar with. It's as of the most recent audit report, which is fiscal year 20. It's based on what they call the government-wide method of accounting, which embellishes all the things with respect to the village, similar to what a corporation would have. And it's on what's called the full accrual basis, which actually is going to be important in a minute. But anyway, when you look at this
summarized balance sheet, I think there are two things that you're drawn to. One, there's a net position deficit of about 44 million. You're familiar with that. And also, there's a very large non-current liability of some 115 million, which is a good-sized number given the size of the balance sheet. So what we decided to do is to take a deeper dive as to what makes up these non-current liabilities, and then that's on the slide on the right. And you can see the first four items are benefit related and the last two are not. Total at the end of fiscal 20 is about $115 million. And I'd make 2 points here. One, if you go back a year to fiscal year 19, that non-current liability would total about $100 million. So in one 12-month period, we've got an increase of 15 million, or about 15%. The other comment I would make is I was curious as to how far back in time you have to go to find out when these benefit plans started. Just looking at the back through the certified financial statements, I was able to go back to 2006. If you go to 2006 and you go to the footnotes on the financial statements, it will talk with some detail about all four of these obligations. But that's as far back as I can go. I suspect that it goes back considerably further than that. I think this stuff has been around for a long period of time. My point on that is this administration didn't create the obligations. I think you'd have to go back through multiple administrations to get to the starting point. I also think this is common stuff in many of these municipalities, well, in the state of New York, and in particular on the East End. So, given that, what we wanted to do is to walk down each of these employee obligations and decide what we want to do next to get more information. So if I could go to the...
With the Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, there you go. The first one, and by far the largest benefit obligation, has to do with the OPEB, which, as the first slide talked about, is $79 million at the end of fiscal year 20. If you looked into the P&L of the government-wide financial statements, which is full accrual based, the expense is about $6 million. So that's a really big ticket item. It's actuarially based. So what we'd have to do is get with the actuary, and we'd ask the actuary to update the calculations and the related footnote disclosure for fiscal year 21 as a starting point. And they would do that anyway as part of the audit cycle. Well, what we're going to ask them to do, if you're agreeable, is to move the work up so we have a good starting point, the most recent starting point. And then what we do, we'd ask them to vary the key assumptions and the key policies to develop, for lack of a better term, a range of outcomes. Because this stuff, although it's clearly an obligation, it's not precise like a bond. So you don't want to think of this as single points. You want to have a view about, under different scenarios, what does this look like going forward? You know, what does it look like 3 years out, 4 years out? This is what we're going to try and do, again, if you're agreeable, to give you a better sense of where this thing is going, so when you do your current business, you'll have it as a reference point. Similar type approach with the state of New York stuff, which also was a big ticket item, almost $5 million of expense in the same type P&L, and working with whoever is the actuary with respect to the state of New York, we'd again try to develop some scenarios as to what this may mean for the future. Same type approach with the pension plan related to the LoSAP. Again, try and get a series of scenarios so you can see how this might unfold depending on economics, policies, etc. Compensated absences is not actuarially related. So what we recommend there is to take a look at the different policies in effect and examine what the choices would be that you could consider going forward to give you a range of outcomes that you may be interested in pursuing. Bonds payable are pretty precise. There's nothing that needs to be that. It's well documented, etc. Can I go to P&L?
Yes, and the P&L, Miranda?
Okay, this may be hard to say. It's a little hard for me to say, but I've looked at it enough, I kind of got it down. Basically what this is, these are the same benefit we've been talking about on the left, and then the column on the left is the government-wide, importantly, full accrual basis, and they're the numbers that apply to the preceding sheet in the full accrual financial statements. If you go to the right, that's the same expenses as they appear in the general fund. The difference is that the general fund is a combination of accrual-based accounting and cash basis accounting, and it's the cash basis accounting that drives the disclosure of these obligations. So that's why you've got these big differences. In one case, they're about $12 million in the general fund, although this is a big number. It's $4 million, and not quite the size as the other set of financials. But what we try and do here is something similar that I've been talking about, is to try and get an idea what the future may look like 2, 3, 4 years out for these different benefit plans with respect to the general fund. Because as you know, the general fund is where you do the budget. So I think that's an important kind of backdrop of information that we're going to try and put together for you. The last one? Yeah, this is the last slide. I'm going to go over. You don't have quite a bit on the screen, but anyway, what this speaks to is the Standard & Poor's most recent evaluation of the village credit was February 2019. And as you know, I mean, there's a lot of things that you're doing that create this AAA credit, and they're well documented in this report. So these are things really to be proud of for you and the people that preceded you. Some of the negatives, though, are in that report, are related to what we're talking about tonight, and that has to do with these benefit obligations. One of the things they say, and of all the industries I've been in, and this is my 5th, I've never seen this in a credit report. And basically what it says is they expect to not change the rating over a 2-year horizon. And my background, for the most part, is the oil and gas business. I mean, you can change your well-being overnight. Well, apparently that's not the case in municipalities. The 2-year horizon has ended in February of this year. I wouldn't conclude, and I'm not implying that therefore something bad is going to happen here. I don't think anything bad is going to happen. But it's just a reference point that I think you should have. And these are all direct quotes, so I haven't paraphrased, I haven't edited anything, they're just extracted right out of the report. Another thing they say is, in their opinion, a credit weakness of the village are the obligations that we're talking about here. And then they go on to say they think these costs are currently manageable. I think that's code for you handle it well in the context of the overall budget. I mean, look what you did last year. You managed all this stuff. And I think that's what we're referring to. They also say there's always a however in this stuff. And the however is if these costs significantly increase, whatever that actually means, it's negative with respect to the credit profile. The 4th comment is basically says the same thing, same kind of thing. It says if you get a confluence of factors that are not dealt with successfully, like replenishing revenue, which I think is code for raising taxes, if you have that confluence of factors, the rating could be lowered. The note is actually an important one, and what it says basically is this. My experience through 4 other industries with credit ratings and reports that come from those credit ratings are they are event-driven, meaning company A buys the assets of company B and they issue bonds. The bonds are going to get rated, and that's going to influence the outcome of the financing. What could happen here if, in going to complete the sewer district project, we go to the bond market at some point in the future, and none of that's been determined yet. Neither has the amount, as you know. There'll be a credit evaluation, and that credit, and you can rely on that 100%, and that credit evaluation will determine the rating, and the rating will determine the cost of the bonds. So this stuff is on the radar screen, of the rating agency, and it's handleable currently, is what that says, but we just need to be more aware of what the future scenarios could be to help you when you decide whatever you're going to do currently on a whole host of things. And that basically, Mayor, is it for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Well, I have a few comments about this. Given the past growth and the unchecked nature of these long-term liabilities, I'd like to form a working group to understand these issues, related issues, and possible options of how to deal with this, future liabilities. And perhaps if it's a member of trustee, member of the Budget and Finance, or 3 members of the Budget and Finance Committee, perhaps the village attorney, and perhaps the actuary. But I'd like to, moving forward with this, create a committee to take a look at this, so we can keep it under control if the Budget and Finance would be agreeable to this. We could also look into other governments and how they're handling this, because we're not alone in this, as far as dealing with long-term liabilities. So,
Well, I think something else to look at. The Wall Street Journal, kind of any day, and I mean, some municipality somewhere, and the challenges with respect to benefit obligations. There's also state enforcement requirements too. Very prevalent in municipalities.
Thank you very much, Ed, and Rose and Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments or questions from the board? The other thing, I'll also thank you very much for the presentation. Again, to the entire Budget and Finance Committee, Rose and James in the back as well, so thank you. We appreciate the update. As you know, obviously our board is committed to lowering property taxes, which obviously is even more challenging given given the environment that we're in. Also maintaining the bond rating, and at the same time, as we know, this board has also paid down some of those notes. The one thing in our control to the tune of $1.2 million. At the same time, this board has not signed or issued any collective bargaining agreements or any contracts that have contributed to some of the OPEB and other long-term liabilities. So we would obviously like your input, as the Deputy Mayor said, in forming some type of special committee or group to help us address some of the long-term liabilities, as we obviously want to maintain our bond rating and continue to lower property taxes, while at the same time, when the opportunity arises, such as a sewer district or a land acquisition, to issue bonds and notes that are quite well priced at the moment. So these are all things that we need to consider, but we do appreciate you putting this up on our screen here, so that everyone who is here tonight or who watches this meeting can see a full, clear picture as to our financial situation, both the positives that this board and other previous boards have helped achieve, and also some of the opportunities or weaknesses that we have. So thank you again. We appreciate that. If there's not any additional comments, we have actually a third quick board presentation, and that would just be on my end. We are applying to the downtown revitalization grants. I'm just going to put this up on the screen here, Chad. You can kind of scroll here. This is one of the guidebooks. So there are approximately 20 or so grants provided by New York State for $10 million. We do one for $20 million. And we will be applying. We do not know if we'll achieve it, but we hope to earn this grant. But we wanted to inform the public and reach out to the public and also solicit some ideas for the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. We welcome input from any community members, and please reach out to us if you have any ideas or suggestions for downtown revitalization projects. Some ideas that we have were brought up by other groups. We were looking for some money for the Southampton Arts Center, for permeable pavement. CMAC was here. He helped us with the 2013 downtown overview study, and there's an opportunity to address with this grant some of those projects put forward in that 2013 study. There's also some environmental initiatives that we'll be applying for, such as solar power panel installations in coordination with our drawdown committee on village-owned buildings. Some of the younger high school students have come to us asking for funding for Big Belly garbages to add to our downtown. There's a lot of various projects that could be grouped into this downtown revitalization initiative grant money. We will apply. Obviously, this is a very competitive grant, but we think we'll put together a good application. But as part of this process, we would welcome any and all ideas from our residents. We've had conversations with business owners. We've had conversations and input from our sewer task force, again from the Southampton Arts Center, from the Paris Climate Action Committee, from the Drawdown environmental groups, and we've also met with the Suffolk County Economic Development Council. So we have reached out, but we would welcome, again, all input from community as we continue to put together this grant. So that is the final court presentation of the night. We now move forward to the public hearing portion of tonight's agenda. And I'll make a motion to open the public hearing number 1 to amend the Village Code, Chapter 110, Section 110-37, Schedule F, stop intersection, more specifically to install stop signs on Meeting House Lane at the intersection of Pine Street eastbound and westbound. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? So before if anyone would like to have public input, I just would like to let everyone know that we're going to make a motion to close this and take no action. We try to please residents, and the resident did ask us about this, but we're currently engaging in a traffic study. So at this point, no action will be taken until we get our traffic study back, and likely no action will be taken. So I just wanted to put that out there so everyone knows. Again, we'll be closing and taking no action, but this is a public hearing. So if there's anyone who'd like to make a public comment, feel free to come forward.
Mr. James McFarland requested to speak.
Mr. McFarland.
McFarland, can you just state your name and your address and...
Jim McFarland, I live on Wyandanch Lane, number 81. Also own some property on Meeting House Lane, and I've had property or a position on Meeting House Lane for more than 40 years, and I spend a lot of time there during the daytime. At night, I don't think we have a traffic problem. I've never seen or even vaguely saw any sort of a hint in my mind that a stop sign would help us at the corner there where Pine Street tees into Meeting House Lane. I don't see it. Unfortunately, a couple boards before you got one of these big grants, and they changed Pine Street into one direction and expanded the sidewalk for children walking to school. And I've been there for many, many years looking out on those sidewalks, never seen one child walking to school. So I don't know what the reasons are for even thinking about this, and I understand what you say, that you're not going to decide tonight, but maybe you'll not forget what I just told you. There is no reason for a stop sign at Pine Street. And as far as renovating downtown, think about those ugly wires and poles that are sticking up everywhere. If you want to change downtown so it looks like a modern, small community with organization, you'll get those wires underground. I don't care what it costs. We should take out a bond issue for every dime that we need for that and get them out of the way now before the cost of doing that kind of work goes 2 or 3 times from what it is now. Get it done now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland. Like I said, the board is going to close this and take no action. We appreciate your comments. The only thing I would add, Jim, is that my favorite resident, Peter, who's in 5th grade, does live across the street from you, and I do see him on the street. Other than that, we agree with you. So thank you. Are there any other comments on this public hearing? Okay. With that being said, I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Our second public hearing, number 2, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton, Suffolk County, New York, shall consider a proposal to adopt a local law to create Chapter 48 cannabis law, more specifically to opt out of retail cannabis dispensaries and/or on-site cannabis consumption establishments to locate and operate within the village boundaries. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there any public comment on this hearing? Okay, is there any comments from the board?
I have some comment, Mr. Mayor. This is a issue that is incredibly, to me, vague in terms of any details as to what we are actually regulating. I have seen nothing from the state indicating to us as a village what type of establishments are going to be allowed to sell cannabis. Who's going to be allowed to buy it? What are the tax implications for the village if we were to allow retail establishments to sell it? Is it going to be regulated like a liquor license? Is there going to be a limited number of stores that can have it? And how do you get those licenses? There's so much unclarity that the need to decide whether or not we should or shouldn't is absolutely impossible without knowing what the details of the law are. So I understand we have a time limit that if we don't do something before the end of the year, we will automatically have been considered to opt in. And I think that is important to note, although it seems to me like we're kind of being given a deadline with no idea what our decision means. I think the state really needs to step up. I saw that Governor Hochul just appointed somebody to be chairman of the Cannabis Committee. It seems incredible to me that they're pushing this law forward when they've only just assigned the chairman of the committee. In any case, those are my points. I don't see how we can legitimately or intelligently discuss this when we don't even know what it is we're discussing.
I would like to say, I agree with Trustee Stevenson that there is a lot of unknowns here. I do think we should look at, maybe if the board does look at allowing us to have it done by similar to restaurants. We have a process now where the permits for restaurants go towards special permitting. So if the board would grant the ability for cannabis, we should look at, special permit process. Of course, I want to hear from the public to see what they have to say, whether they want it or not, because there are people who are pissed, and if they don't want it, then they want it. So that definitely, if the public does want it, we should there's a special permit process for this.
Thank you, President McLaughlin.
And can you add something to what the state is asking us to do here?
Sure. So, oversimplified, the state has approved and authorized the use of having adult use cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption premises. Those licenses will be issued by the Cannabis Control Board, which is not fully formulated, and there's certainly, in my opinion, not going to be any rules or regulations in place by December 31st. So what the state law has done is impose the requirement that if a municipality, whether it be the town or the village, wants to opt out, they have to do so and complete the process by December 31st. If you pass a local law to opt out, and you can opt out of either one or both. So if you don't want to have a dispensary, but you're okay with on-site consumption, or vice versa, you can pick and choose, or you can opt out of both. If you take no action at all by December 31st, the way the law is written, those types of establishments would be permitted in your village. You could then, as long as the control board doesn't find any restrictions unreasonably impractical, you could restrict in the future, requiring them to get a license, maybe restricting it to only be in a light industrial area as opposed to a residential area, like a dispensary. You don't necessarily want a dispensary in a residential area or an on-site consumption place. But if you take no action by December 31st, This will be a permitted use in the village, these two types of establishments. If you wish to opt out, you have to complete the process by December 31st. And what I mean by that is it's more than adopting a local law, because the local law is subject to permissive referendum, which means either you adopt the local law and then this board can say, we're going to hold a referendum on this matter, which means it goes to an election, a vote, by all of the residents of the village. If you adopt a local law and you don't opt to send it for a vote, residents can circulate petitions, and they have 30 days to submit a petition with sufficient number of signatures to force it to go to vote to the residents. And then you would have to hold an election to decide whether or not the residents to decide whether or not they want to have these types of establishments in the village. As Trustee Stevenson points out, there's not a lot of information out there right now. The state has not promulgated rules and regulations. So what I can tell you is if you do adopt the opt-out, and then 6 months from now, a year from now, a year and a half from now, the state puts out regulations and you like them and you think, hey, you know what, we can work within that framework, you could always rescind the local law and basically opt back in. What you can't do is if you take no action, come January 1, you can't then try to opt out. As the local law is written now, if you're in as of January 1, you're in. But you do have the option of opting out, sitting back, taking a look to see what happens to other jurisdictions, find out what their experiences are, and if they're favorable, like that one gentleman was speaking of the town in Colorado, and you find out that there are benefits, obviously the financial benefits with respect to the sharing in the sales tax. You could always rescind the local law, i.e. opt back in to allow these establishments to open up and operate. Was that helpful?
Yes, thank you. And if say you wanted to put it out for a vote, just a question, not that I want to do that, but if you decide you wanted to give the public a chance to vote, does that have to be done before December 31st, or can you put it out and then to be done with all of your election in June?
I think you need to be done by December 31st.
Either way.
You're not going to be able to put it over to June.
Okay.
Because there's a time frame, once you either elect yourselves to, or choose, I should say, once you choose to put it out for referendum or a petition is filed, there's a time frame in which the hearing must be held, the election must be held, and that's not going to carry you to next June's election.
Okay. Thank you, Ken.
No problem.
Thank you, Ken. The only thing I'd like to add for the record is, number one, we've seen a few other villages opt out, so we would not even be the first to do so. And then number two, there is a formula to which to calculate about how much revenue we would earn if we chose not to opt out, and it could be as little as 1.5% that we would earn. So the financial revenue we would receive may not even be as large as one might think if things go a certain direction. But we could also make that formula available. It could be as little as 1.5% of overall sales. But the reality here is that it's our job to listen to the residents. Opting out would also buy us a little more time to see how things would unfold, but I believe our job is to listen to the residents, also look at the numbers, and then obviously make our decision here. So I think that given what our residents are telling us, what other villages are doing, and the lack of financial revenue given the thinner margin we might receive, might add up to my decision, at least here. But I would like to open this up for any other comments from the board. If not, we can make a motion to either close or adjourn.
We adjourn until we have more information.
What other information?
Well, as you said, there's a lot of questions out there. So, unless the board wants to close this, I'm open to adjourning until we get more feedback from the public.
Well, I've been speaking to the public about it, and I have an idea of which way the public is going. I mean, I'm comfortable closing this at this point, but it's up to my peers.
I'm comfortable adjourning or closing. I've already have my mind made up on this, at least for now, and again, we can always change it later if need be.
Right.
I don't know if, Trustee Brown, I don't know if you have any opinion on this, but
Well, my opinion would be is to opt out for this time, because that gives us time to get more information, and if we need to change things, the other way, it limits us, our abilities of what we can do.
thank you very much. Again, I just wanted to get all the board input here.
Trustee Brown, I'm sorry, when he would just said that last sentence. Please speak up a little bit, I appreciate it. Okay, and I think that if we opt out now, we're able to get more information, we're able to evaluate things. If we put it off any longer, then the state might be making decisions for us and our residents. Yes, I agree. So we want our residents to have the ability to, have the time and information and be in a position where we can do what's favorable. I agree, because people have the option of going back in if you need to. Exactly. I'm a little confused. I don't think the state really has a grip on what's going on, to tell you the truth. So I'd like to see how this rolls out. Right now, this is what I've heard from the residents, that we are very family-oriented here in the village, and they don't want to go to the parks and have that smell of marijuana or go into a restaurant and somebody, can't smoke at the restaurant, but everything's outside and everybody's smoking, and they want to enjoy the character of the village as it is and not worry about their children being influenced with that, so.
Ken, can I ask a question? If the board were to act and enact this law today, what is the permissive referendum period? Is it 30 days?
30 days.
Okay.
I didn't hear that, Charlie. What you said?
I said if the board were to take action this evening and opt out, and pass the resolution to opt out, I wanted to know what the period of time for permissive referendum is. So it would be 30 days.
That means the residents would have 30 days to circulate a petition to try to get it onto a ballot.
Oh, okay.
So that's my only concern, now that you sort of clarified that point about the referendum and whatnot, is if we pass it, we don't do anything, there's not going to be enough time for them to have the referendum before the end of the year. I mean, for instance, if we just paid a month, now all of a sudden there's 30 days, they got 30 days to decide to have the petition. Then they got to schedule the referendum, which is going to take some time.
Which is why, as Mayor pointed out, a number of municipalities have already taken action, because, you don't want to wait till the last minute. Who knows, all right, you schedule a hearing in late November and you have a freak snowstorm and the meeting gets canceled, you're stuck. So that's why people have to do, villages, municipalities have to bring it earlier so they don't get caught.
My preference would be to close the public hearing and opt out at this time, because we have that option of opting back in, and I don't want to be caught with anything. Since the state is behind on everything as it is, I want to make sure that we have enough time to do so. So I prefer not to procrastinate with this.
All right, thank you. Trustee McGuire, if it's okay with you, it seems like we have
That's fine.
Thank you. All right, excellent. Okay, so with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have two communications from the board. The first is the 9/11 ceremony memorial services, information from Alfie Callahan, Chief of the Southampton Fire Department. Charlene, I'll let you elaborate on this, but there is a 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. There will be a ceremony. I'm not sure if there's anything else to add, but it'd be nice to let the public.
What Chief Callahan had asked us to communicate to the public is that there is going to be a 20th anniversary ceremony at the Hampton Road Fire Department. Many agencies will be participating. The services will start at 8 a.m. The service will run approximately until 10:45. They have one guest speaker who will be talking about a personal experience at 9/11, and the primary focus will revolve around the department's honor guard running moments of silence and respect, and they will also have some of our local clergy there as well. There will be also be later on in the afternoon, later on at noon, there will be a non-denominational prayer service held at the Basilica Parish of Sacred Hearts on Hill Street. And
That's at 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock noon,
12
yes.
to 1.
And he was looking forward to having the village whole family and the board of trustees attend. And members of the public, please.
Thank you.
And Charlene, as part of that, I saw from the notice from Alfie that there's going to be some road closures around that fire station that the public should be aware of on that.
Yes. We will have it is posted on the website.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And then there's a second communication to the board. It's an email correspondence from Walter Dean from 92 Pierpont Street. That is in our packets as well. So thank you, Walter, for that communication. There are no discussion items tonight. We now move forward to the suggested resolutions. So Charlene, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 1, resolved that the claims of the warrant dated September 9th, 2021, totaling $354,767.87, warrant A8, general fund, and $910, warrant T7, trust fund, be audited and approved. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution number 2, resolved that the reading of the minutes of the public sessions of August 24th, 21 be dispensed with, and that those minutes be accepted as filed with the village administrator, and the actions taken at that meeting be hereby and ratified and approved. I would like to suggest that we make a motion to table this, as we've had some staff out for a few weeks on vacation, and my deputy clerk, who is responsible for the minutes, has been a little busy with lots of activity in the clerk's office. We had a lot of folks in for both birth certificates for back to school, and unfortunately that took precedence over the minutes this month, so we will be tabling this and asking for them to be approved at the next meeting with the minutes from tonight. So can we have a motion to table this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, resolution number 3, resolved that the Board of Trustees, the Village of Southampton, Suffolk County, New York, shall approve a proposal to adopt a local law to create Chapter 48 cannabis law, more specifically to opt out of allowing retail cannabis dispensaries and on-site cannabis consumption establishments to locate and operate within the village boundaries, and be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby finds that the adoption of this law is a Type 2 action according to SECRA. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I believe this is local law number 6, Ken, but I will check on that. Resolution number 4, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the movement of Matthew Sitlaka, employed as a building maintenance laborer in the new position of maintenance mechanic 1 at a salary of $49,017.92, effective August 25th, 2021. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution number 5, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the stipends in the amount of $2,000 for Vicky Beer, Senior Office Assistant, for assuming the additional duties and of time and attendance and employee benefits coordination, and $2,000 for Daniel Burns, Village Tax Receiver, for assuming additional duties and responsibilities for online tax payment. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All discussion, I'd like to thank both Vicki and Danielle. They do a great job, and things, we have a rising cost of living here, so this is the least we can do for all their hard work.
And also, they really stepped up in their roles, I have to say. The both of them. It's taking on new things and bringing village hall into the 21st century.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 6, resolved that the Board of Trustees appoints Lieutenant Suzanne Hertow as acting village chief of police at a base salary of $201,857.76, effective upon the retirement of Chief Thomas Cummings at the close of business on September 10th, 2021. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Someone's got to be back in.
Resolution number 7, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves an appropriation from the Employee Benefits Compensated Absences Reserve, account number 8867, in the amount of $774,193 for the purpose of funding the payout of accrued leave for Chief Thomas Cummings upon his retirement. Appropriation of Employee Benefit Reserve, $774,193, and an increase in police salaries line A 3120.1, $774,193. Do you have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second, and discussion, please. Charlene, can you please explain this payout? Because there seems to be a lot of questions and confusion about how that number was arrived.
Yes. The payout that the chief is going to be receiving upon his retirement is, according to his contract, the payout of all his accrued time. So, through the course of his career, he has accrued vacation time, sick time, personal time, etc. And that's paid out at his daily rate of pay. And I do have that here somewhere. I'm just going to ask. So the chief had a total accumulated.
So you know, put that on the.
Oh, sure. How can I zoom this in?
Put it on the table facing the board.
Okay.
Right next to that on the sheet. Thank you.
Okay. So first there's one on the top and one on the bottom.
All right, we'll go to the top one first. Okay.
What is it, the windmill presentation or next to that?
Yes, that's an annual presentation.
Oh, sorry, Pat.
It's okay. I'll do it again. It's all right.
I'll get away.
It's okay. Top one first.
Okay, there you go. So, the contract calls for a maximum of 400 sick days to be paid out, so that we have 400 sick days. The contract also calls for, and so does the PBA contract, for the payment of the accrual of bonus sick time. So if an officer does not use sick time in a year, they get bonus days of 5 days per year. At one point it was 3 days, and then it had bumped up to 5, so that's why you'll see the 103 there. Vacation time. There's 168 vacation time that was accrued and unused. And then on June 1st, the chief actually accrued another 28 days because his annual accrual was 28 days of vacation. Personal days were 4, holidays 6. Those are holidays that were worked and accrued. 5 days, 5 extra days of comp time that were accrued. So the total days that were paid out are 686 days. The daily rate of pay was 1,095, so the accrual payout was originally 751. Then there was an error in the calculation of the chief's per diem rate for multiple years. He brought that to our attention, to my attention and Labor Council earlier this year, and we calculated what his retroactive pay was, because it was determined that he was paid, his rate of pay was not calculated correctly by Deputy Treasurer, so there was an additional $22,000 that was owed to him, so his total vacation payout, retirement payout is $774,193.
Okay, so this is with the, this is because of the contract. What his contract
his employment contract. He had an exclusive employment contract. He was not covered under the PBA.
So can you share with us what the payout would have been if that contract was not renewed last April?
Sure. So that contract was not renewed. I'm putting this down here.
Yep.
Okay. So the PBA, if the contract were canceled, according to our Labor Council, the payout calculation would revert back to the PBA contract, which and what happens in the PBA contract when an officer retires is they're allowed to accrue the same amount of 400 max sick days, except that only 200 are paid out full pay. The other 200 are paid out at half pay. So they would really only be paid out for 100 days of the additional amount. So they'd be paid out, total payout would be 300 days. They still get paid out for the bonus sick of 103. Vacation would be the same. Everything else would be the same. The other thing that changed in the contract is the PBA contract provides for the per diem rate, the per daily rate for payouts for holiday, for retirements, etc., to be the base pay according to the contract plus the longevity. And the longevity rate is a percentage that changes based on the tenure of the officer. The chief's contract also provided an additional calculation which allowed for his night differential to be included in his daily rate of pay. So if you look at the first one actually had the 23,000 of night differential. So the difference in the per diem rate is about $100 a day. The reduction if the contract had been canceled, so it was $995. So the payout would be $583,363.
Okay, so there was a letter that was written to the editor that appeared in the Southampton Press. And am I correct in saying that that letter stated that the chief was giving a $200,000 bonus to, I don't remember the correct.
No, it was.
So it was not a bonus. That was not an extra that he got.
And I believe the chief also has confirmed that.
So
he was paid out his accrued time.
So the difference in the $200,000 comes because of that contract that was renewed with the perpetuity clause in April.
I believe, yes, I think that's what Vince Toomey had indicated.
Thank you. And I just wanted to just mention something else, generally speaking, because we are talking about these long-term liabilities. So many of these sick days and vacation days have been accrued when in his contract, and I believe it happens with other contracts as well, he's being paid at his current rate, not at the rate that he was being paid, say, 10 years ago, and he didn't take a certain amount of, and I'm not just the chief, I'm just talking generally speaking.
Exactly, and a lot of, many municipalities, the trend now is to take a look at capping some of these accruals in the collective bargaining agreements, and allowing either a user lose, having that type of a clause, or having a clause where they're paid out on an annual basis. Many municipalities at the end of the year will say, you haven't used up all your vacation time, you can only, roll 3 weeks into the ensuing year, we're going to pay you out for whatever you didn't use.
Okay, at that rate that you're getting
paid. Exactly. So if you imagine having an employee come on at the beginning of their career and they may be paid, $18 or $19 an hour, $20 an hour, and then as they, their tenure with the village continues, they could be up to, $30, $40 an hour. So that day becomes much more expensive. And it's also, something for the employees to consider too, because many municipalities have one of these payout at the end of the year options, and employees like to have the money and they can probably invest it and or put it away for their children's college funds, or put it in their deferred comp. So there are many other options where they can take that money and make it work for them. And it also keeps the liability off the balance sheet for the village. So.
And one last question, the appropriation for the employee benefits compensated absence reserve fund. Can you please tell me what the balance was and now is?
Well, we have, in our budget, you'll see a line item in our budget. We started about 4 years ago putting $300,000 into the budget to appropriate into this reserve. And that's a very good best practice to try to provide for a reserve for these kinds of payouts. So we had accumulated about $1.1 million. And so this is a large payout, so it's going to take
and deplete the fund.
Yeah, we'll probably have about $300,000 left in there, 3 and change. So.
Okay, so it's 1 person. Okay. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you for that. I would actually like to add, it actually goes hand in hand with the presentation we had earlier tonight, and I actually saw a line from, I think it was from the auditor, that says if the reserves are not replenished, the rating could be lowered. And it's disappointing that we're in this situation where we could have saved the taxpayer $200,000, but we didn't. And now, unfortunately, it is on this board to not only pay that out, which we're doing this evening, but also to replenish the reserves, particularly when there's so many needs of the village. We had one resident tonight talk about burying power lines. We have parks that need to be built. We have money for many other things that we need to incur. So it's disappointing that we're in this situation, but we're obviously up to the challenge, and we're optimistic that we can continue to repair our balance sheet. But it is disappointing that we're in this situation where the reserve was depleted, and hopefully we will not be in this situation later on with future retirements where we'll have to tap into a revolving credit facility or issue notes in order to pay out for retirements. But again, many of the members of this board have not been here for longer than 2 years, some much less. So we'll have to take on this challenge like we've taken on other challenges. But with Deputy Mayor, I wanted to thank you for the questions, and Charlene, thank you for the explanation as to how that per diem and payout was calculated, and also thank you for the clarification that this was simply what an individual was owed pursuant to his contract, and not, in fact, a buyout or a bonus or anything of those sorts. Thank you. Now, I don't know if there's any additional comments in this discussion or discussion items from the board. If not, we could obviously move forward with the rest of this resolution.
Yeah, we have to vote on it.
We have to vote. So, all in favor?
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution number 8, resolve the Board of Trustees approves the mayor to accept and sign the proposal submitted by VHB Design PC for the redesign of the sewage disposal system for Agawam Park men's restroom in the amount of $12,750 to be paid from the Parks Trust Fund CS 7370.400. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
This is just a repair, because I think actually 3 years ago we installed a new IA septic system in the park, but it turned out to be the wrong, too small of a system, so we actually have to redo it.
Yes.
So we're just redoing a IA septic system, which we're happy we put an IA septic system in, but unfortunately it was the...
This is actually, it looks like a lot of money, but
Right,
it's
no,
not,
it's
because
actually a good price.
it's a good price, and plus we've been having to pump that every single week.
It's been costing quite a bit.
It's been costing quite a to maintain it, so this is a necessary upgrade.
And I'm of course familiar with the IA septic system, we all are, but maybe the average person is not. These are the innovative alternative septic systems. These are the low nitrogen systems that anyone on new construction will also have to implement. But obviously we're trying to lead by example here by installing these new low nitrogen septic systems. This is particularly close to Lake Agawam and the watershed. But again, this is actually a good price. Thank you for working with Gary on this, and that's just the backstory here as to kind of why we are doing this. So thank you. I guess all in favor?
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution number 9, resolve the Board of Trustees approves the purchase of Finance Manager Timepiece Time and Attendance module that will standardize timesheet management and improve both efficiency and internal controls in the amount of $28,160 from the Trustees Special Projects Fund. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Just for clarification, we have been using a duct tape version of time and attendance here in the village, and it's like every department uses a different method. Some are using Excel spreadsheets. The police department uses their chart blotter system where they have their attendance chart on their schedule. We have the DPW who are using a Cronus system, which is very expensive, and its facial recognition does not work. We have all kinds of problems with that, and the clocks are always breaking down. The department heads are having a hard time maintaining it. We inquired on our financial software, hey, do you guys have a time and attendance add-on module? And they said, of course, we have a fully integrated one with biometric time clocks, and all the files are import into the payroll. And you know, we'd have everything, we'd have audits and controls and reports, and we'd have access to it. So, it's a little bit of a cost to get it up and running, and basically, of this $28,000, the software doesn't really cost anything. $28,000 is the clocks. I think the clocks are $2,500 each, and we have to have them in different locations. The police department's going to continue. I had a conversation with Lieutenant Kurtau this week. They're going to continue using their scheduling system and then just downloading. But the other departments, including Village Hall here, building department, will all be using time clock. So just wanted to clarify that.
I've had a good experience with this, and where I work, we got the system, and it really pays for itself. And it's accurate. And it's
So, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution number 10, resolve the Board of Trustees approves the final member, Reverend Michael Vitrano, to the search committee for the purpose of, for the research of the new police chief position. Existing members approved at the Board of Trustees meeting on August 24th, 2021 consist of Trustee Stevenson, Trustee Brown, Ed Moneypenny, and Reverend Donald Butler. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 11, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the new members, Jane Fair and Shonda Campbell, to the Comprehensive Master Plan Steering Committee for the purpose of coordinating and collaborating with outside consultants. The existing members approved by the Board of Trustees at the meeting on August 24th consist of Mary Jessie Warren, Trustee Stevenson, William Mango Chair, and Eldon Scott. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution number 12. Resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the collaboration with Project Purple, a national 501c for pancreatic cancer organization, to illuminate several landmarks in sites during the month of November to raise awareness for pancreatic cancer. They would be providing the lights. There's a purple lighting of the, and they had suggested the monument at Agawam as one of their facilities, throughout the country. That would be lit up in purple in observance for this month. There is a flyer attached to the agenda on some of the information and some pictures on what it looks like. It's actually quite nice. So, do we have a motion?
Motion.
And second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 13, resolved that the Board of Trustees appoints the following members to the Climate Action Committee for a term of 2 years ending June 30th, 2023. Michelangelo Lieberman, Sheila Pfeiffer, Alexandra Talty, Scott Rose, and Board Liaison Trustee Robin Brown. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion.
A second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 14, the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of Southampton authorized the village administrator to publish the notice of public hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 21st at 6 p.m. via Zoom to consider a local law amending Village Code Article 4 entitled Special Exemption Uses in order to clarify the powers of the Board of Trustees and Zoning Board of Appeals when applying said article. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution number 15, resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of Southampton authorizes the village administrator to publish the notice of public hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 21st at 6 p.m. via Zoom to consider a local law amending Chapter 116-23 Special Conditions and Safeguards for certain uses to add the new subsection 116-23 subchapter 28 and to adjust the resident district table of use regulations for the village code, specifically to allow food pantry by special exception in the residential R12-5 district. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We do have a supplemental agenda for this evening with 3 resolutions. Can I have a motion to add and that's included in your packet?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution number 16, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the amendment to the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Bylaws, the addition of Article 5, Section F. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Actually, I believe the change in the bylaws is also attached and redlined, is provided by our chief, Shane Finicaro, this afternoon. Resolution number 17, same amendment, different article. Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the amendment of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Bylaws, Article 5, Section C. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 18, resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor to sign a licensing agreement between the Village of Southampton and the East End African American Museum and Center for Excellence, DBA Southampton and African American Museum.
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That concludes the resolution portion.
Thank you, Charlene. We'll conclude our meeting with comments from board members, and in alphabetical order, Trustee Aresta, you are first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to, once again, as I did before, congratulate Chief Cummings and wish him a healthy and happy retirement. And I welcome Lieutenant Fairchild. I've been getting to know her. We've been working on a few things together already, and I know she is up to the task of acting chief. So welcome to your new position. A lot of things been going on. DPW has been very, very busy, I have to say. Highways completed 350 feet of sidewalk replacement on West Main Street. They are also going to be installing a new crosswalk at Maple and Railroad Plaza. It's widening the school speed zone from West Main Street to Maple, and adding appropriate signage to help slow the traffic, and it also gives the train commuters a safer place to cross instead of in the middle of Railroad Plaza. The V-identification signs were implemented at village beaches as that was requested by Ocean Rescue. They completed the storm cleanup from 2 tropical systems that we've just experienced. So a lot of cleanup being done. So electrical work for the EV chargers, I feel like I've been talking about this forever, is starting on Monday, September 13th. So that's this Monday coming, and they'll be starting the electrical work for the EV chargers. There's going to be 3 stations. One is behind SAC, one is over by Railroad Plaza, and one is opposite the new septic system is going in by the men's bathroom in Avalon Park. So we're going to have 3 different stations for EV charging. The speed signs were successfully lowered, and lowering the speeding on West Prospect, and were also, those are the new signs that we purchased, and right now they're going to start using them as a detour, message boards, and all for Saturday ceremony for 9/11. So those big machines you have, we can move them around, we can use them for different things, not only just traffic study, but there's messages and other things that we can do with that. We received a proposal to write bids for the steps for the War Memorial. If that's something else I've been talking about, because the War Memorial in Avalon Park is it's just about falling down. There's cracks in the ceiling, and it's been a big problem. So the engineers have finally sent over a proposal, and hopefully we'll be getting, it's very important for Avalon Park, and it's very important for our veterans as well, so we'd like to we'll be moving along with that as well. Building maintenance has been sheetracking the cultural center, repairing leaks and flooding in the police department basement. They put the showmobile away for the winter since the concerts are over. And they're continuing the LED streetlight replacement. We just got the new shipments, so that's another move in the right direction with our village. They're continuing this drawdown and our commitment to becoming green. If anybody noticed, the security planters at the corner of Windmill Lane and Jobs, we just put because there was concern of traffic going into the restaurant, and so many people are sitting outside on that corner, and it's a very busy corner, and there's a lot of turns on that corner. So they just installed, I just went by there today, the flowers are beautiful. and mulching beds and getting the Hampton Road firehouse ready for the ceremony on Saturday, and some core maintenance has also been started. So long list, very busy, and that's it. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Trustee Resto. Trustee Brown.
Good evening, everyone. I too would like to congratulate Lieutenant Hertel in taking her position. I'm quite pleased, and I'm sure the rest of our board and villages, that we have talent that is taking the reins, and the board, as well as myself, look forward to working with her, and we're grateful. I also would like to commend Southampton Arts Center. Their event was quite successful. I thank them for bringing in such an array of art, and as well as our village residents seem to receive it quite well, and they also enjoyed our restaurants along after. So it was quite good for our business and our arts. So I do commend them and thank them.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Trustee McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to echo my colleagues' comments on Lieutenant Hertel, Acting Chief Hertel. She is a 25-year veteran of the force, and I wish her well in her new position. And let's not forget, I believe she is the first female chief on the East End. So we did make history tonight by having her assume this position for the time being. I also want to make my colleagues aware that I'm sure we're all aware that there's been several issues with the dog park. I would encourage this board to join an executive session to discuss it, because I do think there is warrant private conversation between us to look at how we can reform the issue or deal with the issue accordingly. Regarding going back to Zoom, we have a lot of issues, a lot of things in front of us, public hearings and so forth. I understand the 21st we are already in Zoom. However, given the depth of these public hearings, I would like to encourage my colleagues to consider going to SAC or through Culture Center if possible, or even high school if possible, to allow the public to continue to comment on these issues, because not everyone is as efficient in Zoom as others are. And I also want to say, regards to our traffic study, a few residents have reached out to me on Somerset regarding the continuing cut-throughs of those neighborhoods, mainly coming from north to south. And I believe we could potentially look at having that street be one way for certain hours of the day. I don't know how difficult that would be to control that. However, I think it would do a lot to mitigate the issues on that street. At least I believe, speaking with the residents. And of course, I wanted to thank the presentations of the Budget Committee and the window presentation. Obviously, we want to see these things go forward, especially with the window. It would be great to bring it back after 130 some odd years of its absence. So looking forward to it, and let's forge ahead. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Trustee McLaughlin. Trustee Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. I've lived a lot of days. There's only 4 of them in my life that I can remember very clearly and precisely where I was, what I was doing. One was President Kennedy. Second was when Neil Anderson walked on the moon. Third was my wedding. And of course, the 4th was 9/11. There's a show on Netflix my wife and I have been watching called One Day in America. And it is live footage taken as it was happening. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's mind-blowing. Literally mind-blowing. See these guys going up the stairs from the buildings, coming down. There's the ceremony to recognize the 20th anniversary on Saturday at 8 a.m. at the firehouse. I was talking about it with Alfie Callahan, the chief, We just had a very bad situation here in New York with flooding from the remaining leftover from Ida. Well, I'm sitting here worried that my basement's got some water. These guys are going to Westchester and helping people, pumping out people's basements. They got 8 feet of water in the Monoma firehouse. I just think we are so blessed to have all of our people willing to help us, and I just want to say thanks for that. Thank you also, of course, as the board is, all my fellow trustees and the mayor. Thank you to Chief Cummings for his years of service. Just to point out, the money he was paid today, he earned that. That was his contractual benefits, and it's our duty as a board going forward to exercise our best ability to be fiscally responsible. But in no way should it be thought that he held anybody up to get that. Those funds were granted to him in contracts for negotiations. Going forward in those contracts for negotiations, we as a board and future boards just need to be more mindful of the situation with long-term benefits and how they can grow exponentially, as was explained to us by the Budget and Finance Committee. And lastly, I would definitely like to congratulate Lieutenant Hertaw on becoming acting chief. I'm sure she will do her very best and to keep the great tradition of the Southampton Village Police Department going strong. So thanks to her and good luck to her. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Stevenson. And I would just echo your comments, and while it was not my generation to see the assassination of JFK, nor did I was there to see Neil Armstrong take those steps on the moon, I certainly remember that day. It is indelible in my mind, and was obviously a horrible day for the country, but also a reminder about how patriotic our country is, and how our country came together after 9/11, and the work of New York City PD and New York City Fire Department and other first responders, and to see everyone out there and the leadership that some of these individuals displayed that day. Some will obviously put their life at risk. Something to be remembered and can't be forgotten. And so I'm looking forward to attending the 9/11 memorial this Saturday, and I wanted to thank Fire Department and other village members for putting on the service, and looking forward to showing my support to being there. And of course, every year on this date, it is a day that we cannot forget. So I would like to echo your comments, Trustee Stevenson. Number two, also would like to congratulate Lieutenant Hertaw on becoming the acting chief of police. This is a requirement by New York state law. We must obviously have a chief of police, and she was the right person to take over this position. Now, I will say there are other people who were interested in the position, and I also wanted to thank them for offering to take that position. And this was not because anyone was not qualified. This was simply because she was the right person for the job. But I also wanted to thank those who were interested in this acting position. And I also do feel for those people who did not get the position because they also have put significant time into this job and deeply care about our community. So that's number two. Number three, just wanted to address the Climate Action Committee that we appointed tonight. I know Cheryl Piper is here in attendance, but we just wanted to let them know we're behind them. There's a lot of work, but this board is ready to enact any of the recommendations, so we're looking forward to hearing those. And then, in addition, the steering committee, just wanted to remind everybody that the steering committee is meeting, working hand in hand with the planners, but there'll be very, very much constituent interviews, there'll be public hearings, and then the first Thursday of every month when we have our planning commission meeting, the chair of the steering committee, Bill Manger, will be presenting updates in front of the planning commission, which is a public meeting, and also be getting input from the planning commission, so they'll be working hand in hand as well. So for the public who'd like to get updates, I recommend attending those planning commission meetings the first Thursday of every month at 5 p.m. And then also just wanted to thank the Deputy Mayor for her update on the Public Works Department, particularly the small item of the security planters placed on the corner of Job's Lane, diagonally across from the new Sotheby's building. The Deputy Mayor has done a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure the village looks good, to make sure the Public Works Department gets the job done. We have great employees there. And so this is just an example of one small task coupled with another small task with those EV charging stations. And you just can't forget that, you know, Gina, Deputy Mayor, she signed up for the job before becoming a trustee, before becoming an elected official. She was just an everyday person who volunteered her time to be a public servant. And this, in my opinion, is what should be happening, where you see an average citizen step into the role and start addressing the little things one at a time. And this is just good work in progress. So wanted to thank you. There's a lot of things that she's done, including helping get Moses Park open, that sometimes people enjoy but don't recognize the team behind it. So I want to thank you and the Public Works Department as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So, in any case, that is all I have this evening. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.